Foot soldier and location tiles are the most commonly interacted with mechanism in Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid. But what do? How do they work? What sort of strategies can you expect to see when facing off against the foot soldiers? What sort of setbacks or boons might you have when interacting with the location? We're going to get into all that in this video. Hey, I'm Tyler Collum. Welcome back to my Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid deep dive series here on Faith and Board Games. Today we're looking at the foot soldiers and locations from the core box, starting with the Putty Patrollers from the original series. I'm going to give you a rundown of each of the cards, some of their strengths and weaknesses, how you might expect to combat them, and how dangerous they may be to you, as well as the associated locations and their abilities that go along with the foot soldiers here. We're going to start off here with cannon fodder. There's 3 of these in the Putty Patroller deck. This is a 3 health card, which makes it a little tougher to take down. And it'll deal 2 damage, which isn't so bad. You have a pretty decent chance of not losing any cards unless you pull a 1 shield. So not super dangerous there. But what is unfortunate about it is it has the guard keyword. It's got pretty high health for a foot soldier and the guard, so you're going to have to focus on knocking this guy out. And this card is literally just there to do exactly what it says. It's the cannon fodder, just trying to draw the attacks away from the other more dangerous Putty Patroller cards, which we'll get into. So that's your cannon fodder. The next card we'll talk about is the flanking ability, which the Putty Patroller has 2 of these cards in their deck. It's a 2 health card, so pretty easy to take down. It does have a passive ability though, which means you have to pay attention to what this ability does every enemy turn until this card is defeated. The ability says while this card is in play, each time another enemy card deals damage, increase that damage by 1. So obviously you want to get rid of this card pretty quick. So cannon fodder, which normally deals 2 damage, turns that up to 3, which is pretty devastating. So you want to watch out for that on the flanking for the Putty Patrollers. Next card here we have the Swarm attack, which there are 2 of these in the Putty Patroller deck. This is 3 health, so a little bit tougher one to take down. This is one of their cooler abilities. I think it especially fits the foot soldier dynamic, specifically the putties. And here's what it does. You deal 1 damage, increase this damage by 1 for each foot soldier in this location. And that last statement there, that in this location, is big. It's not just talking about the battle that you're in, which battles you can have a max of 4 foot soldiers that you're going up against, but some locations can have up to 7 foot soldiers in that location. So if you're going up against this card and it goes off while you're in a full location, that's going to be 8 damage that hits you. If you have a flanking on top of that, that turns into 9, which can be absolutely devastating for a single ranger to have to absorb that much damage. So the Swarm attack with its 3 health can be pretty brutal. It can also be pretty weak, obviously. If there's only 1 foot soldier there, all of a sudden it's doing 2 damage. So not a big deal. So that's the Swarm attack. Could be tough, could be easy. Just depends on the battle you're in. The last set of cards that the Putty Patrollers have is the Leaping attack. They have 3 of these in their deck, each having 2 health. And these simply do 3 damage, which the 3 damage on up cards are the most devastating to deal with, since that means you are for sure at least having to discard 1 card. If things go your way, maybe 2, just depending on how those shields pop up in your deck. So 3 damage on up you got to watch out for. Luckily only 2 health, so pretty easy to take out, as long as you don't have those guard abilities on either side of it that you have to take out first and then absorb this damage. So those are the cards for the Putty Patrollers. Their locations associated with the Putty Patrollers are Angel Grove Park and Ernie's Juice Bar, couple of classic locations here from the Rangers universe. You could play with just the basic side of the locations, which have no abilities. But you could also play an advanced mode, which has abilities listed on each of these locations. For Angel Grove Park, at the end of each round, you move one soldier from this location to the next location clockwise that is not panicked, which that could be absolutely devastating. If this location is already panicked, end of the round, foot soldier moves off of it to start filling up another location that's getting pretty close to being panicked. That can be brutal, especially since locations do not become unpanicked until all of the foot soldiers are wiped out. So get this one panicked, all of a sudden it's moving other foot soldiers around, just slowly panicking every other location. So this one's really going to up the ante there, making sure you got to keep this one cleared out so you're not getting foot soldiers just moving around all over the board. So you got to watch out for that, Angel Grove Park. Then you have Ernie's Juice Bar. When a ranger in this location performs the recover action, they may recover cards with a total of up to 9 shields instead of 6, which is awesome. That recover action can really come in clutch if you wanted, instead of moving back to the command center to fill back up and then move back, taking 2 actions in order to get back to a location and start a battle. You can just use one action, grab a few cards to restock your deck, and then get right back into a fight. Here, instead of just getting 6, which is a minimum of 2 cards, maximum of 4 to 5 maybe, depending on the ranger's deck composition. Being able to get 9 shields can almost replenish your deck back up to full, so that's a pretty big one there. And you'll find that with these different location sections, you're going to have one ability that's going to hinder the rangers, and then one ability that's going to be a pretty decent help to the ranger. So those are the cards and locations for the Putty Patrollers. And I find that as you play the Putty Patrollers, they're pretty weak individually, but when you get a bunch of them that you have to fight together, and then especially when you pair them up with a boss or something like that, the putties can become a bit of a problem with their swarm attack. When they have cards that deal pretty high damage that are being guarded, they can just be a pest, which is, you know, what they do in the show. So those are the Putty Patrollers. Let's get into the Super Putty Patrollers. Their first card we'll talk about is Engulf. They have 3 of these. It's a 2 health card, but it's also a fast and a guard. And what that fast means is this card jumps right to the front of the battle line. Normally rangers go first. When the fast card comes out, that means the foot soldiers take the first action, and their action would be to drain 1 energy, which energy are pretty tough to come by. You only get to start out with 2 to 3 energy as a group, depending on the player count that you have. And you don't have too many cards that get you more energy, and you need those to fire off your better abilities. So when you have these cards coming in and snagging that energy from you, that can be pretty tough. Luckily, it only has 2 health with the guard, so it's pretty easy to knock out, but not before it takes an energy. The next card is Putty Pummel, which the Super Putty Patroller has 3 of these. 3 health card and deals 3 damage. So very similar to the Putty Patroller Leap Attack, just has a higher health value, which makes it a little tougher to deal with. And it's got that 3 damage attack on there, which, as we said, that's the danger zone with these cards. So you got to watch out for the Putty Pummel. The next card is a cool one as far as theme goes, not so much when you're fighting them. But this is Regrow. They have 2 of these in their deck with 2 health, so pretty easy to take out. But what it does is it deploys 1 Super Putty Patroller to this location. So if you don't get to this Regrow fast enough, then it's just going to bring in another Putty Patroller that you're going to have to take more time, another action to have to take out when you need to be getting around and clearing other locations. So you really got to watch out for these Regrow cards. Make sure you're not letting them bolster their troops. So that is Regrow. Last set of cards here for the Super Putty Patrollers is the Swarm Attack. They only have 2 of these in their deck. They have 3 health each. Just like the Putty Patrollers, deal 1 damage, increase this damage by 1 for each foot soldier in this location. just like we talked about the other one, could be pretty brutal, could be not so great depending on how many foot soldiers are in the location. But when you pair these up with the regrow, if you have a couple regrows that pop out first, bolster up the troops, bolster up the foot soldiers and the location, and then all of a sudden you get hit with a swarm attack. If die aren't going your way, you could get hit with a pretty good amount of damage, which is no bueno for the Rangers. So those are the cards for the Super Putty Patrollers. Now their locations that are associated with them are going to be Angel Grove High and the Industrial District. At Angel Grove High, each Ranger in this location has their maximum hand limit reduced by 2. Excess cards are immediately discarded. This is tough, especially if you're playing with 3 or more players. You only have a hand size of 5 to begin with, so if you get knocked down to only 3 options going into a fight at Angel Grove High, that is brutal, especially if you end up with a boss on this location with a bunch of putties. That would be tough to clear out, so you got to watch out for that ability there. Then you have the Industrial District. At the start of each battle in this location, each Ranger may draw 1 card and then place 1 card from their hand back on top of their deck. This is just a nice one to be able to know what's coming up. You're able to refill your hand there at the start of each battle, as well as be able to plan on what defensive card is going to be coming up next, or if you know you're going to be using an ability to draw a card, that would be very handy. So any kind of ability like that where you're able to know what's coming off the top of your deck, especially with a Ranger like Billy, which you can check out my other deep dive video to see all the different Rangers abilities and some strategies that go along with that. But Billy, he has star abilities on his cards. When they are revealed for defense, he gets a bonus ability from them. So taking Billy or any other Ranger from the Heroes of the Grid universe into the Industrial District with those kind of abilities is a really nice strategy to have in your back pocket. So the Super Putty Patrollers are basically just upgraded versions of the Putty Patrollers with the added energy theft and the ability to regrow in the locations. So they just take what the Putty Patrollers do, ramp that up a couple of notches to make it a little bit tougher when you're fighting against those Super Putty Patrollers. Now we're going to get into my favorite cards from each of these decks. I really like the art in Heroes of the Grid. They just do a really good job of having a cool look, but also still maintaining a little bit of that Power Rangers fun element. And for the Putty Patrollers, I'm going to have to say my favorite art is going to be the cannon fodder. That just looks really cool with the putties lunging out there with all that energy. That's a pretty cool looking card. Flanking is right there. I do like that one. But as far as my favorite ability from the Putty Patrollers, just thematically wise, is going to be the swarm attack. It just makes so much sense with the Putty Patrollers just swarming the Rangers, taking them down. So that would be my favorite cards from the Putty Patrollers. Now for the Super Putty Patrollers, my favorite card art here would probably be, maybe the Engulf. The Engulf is kind of a cool one. Just that concept of them actually using their puttiness. You know, you don't see that too often in the TV shows for obvious reasons with their budgeting. But on these cards, actually seeing them use that ability to morph themselves around the Ranger, that's kind of a cool concept there. But as far as my favorite card, it's going to be the regrow ability. Just splitting off, especially the minis themselves have that split look to them, so that regrow really fits. And that would be my favorite card art and ability from the Super Putty Patrollers. And now we are going to look at my favorite of the 2 abilities here. Obviously, not a fan of the negative locations. I do really love Ernie's Juice Bar for a multitude of reasons. That is just such a classic location in the Ranger universe. But also being able to recover 9 shields with 1 action, that is absolutely huge. So those are all the cards and abilities and locations that have to do with the foot soldiers from the core box. Some of my favorite strategies when taking on the Putty Patrollers would be to use Rangers such as Zach that have wide amount of damage as well as a lot of dice, since taking these foot soldiers out quickly really is the name of the game. And Zach has really helpful abilities that allow him to attack cards that are to either side. So you can go after the guard cards with the Putty Patrollers and still be able to splash damage over to some of the more dangerous cards that the Putty Patrollers have, especially the ones that have low health, such as the flanking and the regrow. Be able to get those knocked out. You also have Rangers such as Kimberly that have a lot of ignore the guard abilities in her deck, which allows her to just get to those cards a little bit more directly without having to go side to side. So being able to team Rangers such as those two up is a good strategy to go after the putties. And you also just want to make sure that you don't use too many Rangers in small groups of putties, since as you saw there's not a lot of health on those Putty Patrollers cards. So you don't want to get too caught up in Heroes of the Grid sending everybody to each location. You are going to want to split up. Just get the Rangers split up in good solid groups that can make sure they take out each group and keep the foot soldiers down in each area. So those are some strategy tips for handling the Putty Patrollers and Super Putty Patrollers from Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, the core box. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Go ahead and head down to the comments and let me know any strategies that you enjoy deploying against the putties or super putties, as well as hitting that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed the content that you've seen here today or found it helpful. A huge help to me, and it's a free way for you to show support to the channel and allowing me to continue to put out more videos like this. Until next time, have fun beating down some putties and stay awesome.